Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Workforce on Deck podcast. This is Vince Jackson. I'm here with
Dr. Sarah Inman, and we are here actually live from Las Vegas with our friends Dylan Riley and Austin Britters from TestAssure. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. Yeah, my name's Austin Britters. I'm VP of Sales at TestAssure. I've been with the organization a little over 5 years now. Based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Born and raised in the Southeast. Prior to TestAssure, I was in sort of the finance investment banking space. So found my way into workforce management and have just absolutely fallen in love with the people and with the space. So super interesting what we do as an organization. Excited to share that with you guys today. As far as my role goes, I pretty much oversee all of our direct relationships, B2B to straight to the customer, and then also oversee a lot of our partnerships as well. So our partners play a big role in a lot of what we do, and we wouldn't be where we're at today without our partners and our customers. So.
Perfect. Dylan?
Yeah, Dylan Riley, Chief Revenue Officer for TestAssure. Really happy to be here. Excited about the podcast. I've been with TestAssure in an official capacity for about 6 months, but prior to that was working with them with a lot of my customers in partnering for the testing kind of scope of work and a lot of different components of workforce management initiatives. So happy to be here, based out of Nashville, Tennessee as well.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about TestAssure. Obviously, Vince and I, who you guys are and what you do, but tell us what the company does. What's your mission? How do you help customers?
Yeah, so TestAssure really as an organization is a platform, right? So we're Google Cloud hosted SaaS solution. We've been in the workforce management space for over 20 years. And really, we got our start with a real large organization in the retail space, and our history has always been sort of retail enterprise. And what we found in sort of doing a lot of consulting work there was that customers all struggle with testing. So, testing was something that we found created a bottleneck for customers, whether they're already live or they're trying to do an implementation. It's something that just slows them down. So we were really tasked with building out a solution that can bring automation to the table and bring automation out of the box. So that's what our team was on a mission to develop, and that's really what we built. Again, 15, 20 years ago. The product's evolved a lot since then, and obviously now being in the cloud and a SaaS platform. But back to your question, I mean, what we do, I mean, we're really here to help customers that don't have the resources, the bandwidth, customers that are innovative. They're looking at ways to take their current process and improve it. So obviously with automation comes a lot of efficiency gains, and a lot of the customers we work with are looking at this as a long-term investment, right? Like they understand it's going to take some work to build this out, but then we have something we can reuse terms. So those are kind of the two camps that most customers sit in. Again, one, customers either don't have the bandwidth, the resources, the time, or they're just really looking at ways to improve their current process.
So can we drill down into that a little bit? Because I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and I want them, our listeners to really understand what we're talking about here, because it's not just one flavor of testing either, right? There's different iterations of testing, different phases, different timing. There's different people actually executing it and being the customer of the output. So can you drive into a little bit of those different flavors and you know what I mean by UAT versus, hey, I'm testing my configuration I just built, to I'm testing because I'm doing an update, the SaaS updates roll out and I need to do some regression testing. There's all these different phases. Can you dive into that a little bit more in detail?
Yeah. So a lot of times when people talk about testing, they just refer to it as UAT, and that's sort of the common term in the space. But we break testing down into couple different buckets. So functional testing, integration testing, parallel testing, and UAT. So those are all really project specific types of testing that you would do in an implementation, for example. So functional testing is really, I would say, at our core, kind of our bread and butter, where customers see a lot of the value. Functional testing is really just making sure the nuts and bolts of the system are it's built out, it's working as you expect it to. So you've got a build team that's going to come in and configure the system based on your requirements, your design documents. And if anything gets lost in translation there, it's up to you as the customer to be able to catch that. And that's where we're able to come in and help with functional testing, is stepping into the customer's shoes, putting on our customer's hat and the lens of the customer, looking at the system from their viewpoint. So making sure the pay rules, the accruals, all of scheduling is working correctly, and ultimately that customers are paying their employees correctly. And then integration, of course, like there's, depending on your system, the system you're implementing, and then what other systems are in your ecosystem, you could have hundreds of integrations. A lot of times those are custom, they can be super complex, and then other times they're more, out of the box and already pre-built, coming from UKG or another system. So we can also test things like your person import, your payroll export, any data that you're pushing or pulling out of the system. We help customers to
Regardless of where it's going or coming from, you can test it and validate it and make sure the quality of what's coming over.
Yep.
Perfect. Love it. Okay.
And then, a couple other areas. Parallel testing is a big one customers always ask about. That's more so focused on the payroll output. So we're looking at payroll export, comparing the two files. So your legacy system and then your future state system. When you go from one to the other, how do you, it's not going to be apples to oranges or apples to apples comparison. So, how do I know when I move over to this new system that my payroll export is going to populate correctly? So we can look at, we'll take a customer's legacy system, we'll look at a couple of different pay periods, usually holiday, non-holiday, all their different pay audiences, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and we can drill down into that data and then recreate it in their new system downstream, and then validate that there's no differences, or if there are differences, they're justifiable.
I mean, you hit on a key point there that I found interesting. I was affiliated with this a little bit in some of the projects early on, and what I found was a lot of times, it's so important that when you're doing that functional testing and then the user acceptance testing, and when you get to that, parallel testing, the files may not match. And what we found sometimes is the customer has actually been paying people wrong for a long time. Right. And, and it's kind of like, wow, we missed this. We missed it for years. And this actually proves that out, that, hey, we're putting everything in right from a functional standpoint. The UAT tested it's good. The file's coming out right. And then you got to go back and look at, okay, what was wrong in our prior system and make sure that it's valid and everything, which is, look, to me, that just pays dividends right there. No one wants to get caught in a lawsuit and finding out they've been paying someone wrong for a long time. Okay, so that gets through the three, and then I think you have
UAT.
Yeah.
UAT is kind of the cherry on top, and that's really where we start to bring, customer will start to bring their end users into the system. So this pairs well with training and user adoption, but this is where we're really, day in the life of an employee type scenario, those workflows, going into the system, hands on the keyboard, making sure, your managers can log in, you can approve time off, approve a timesheet, all those, just the basic functionality of the system, user security settings. So we can help kind of we can be hands-on as the customer wants us to be. We can actually execute the tests on behalf of the customer. So our team can actually go in and do that for them, or we can actually take some of their employees, some of their end users, and kind of hold their hand through the process. So it's really up to the customer and what they're looking for. But yeah, UAT is a huge part of testing, and before go live, you definitely want to get into the system, and that's how your team will learn the system too. So
And I think that level of thoroughness that you describe in all the different areas, that's a differentiator in TestAssure and the approach that you guys bring to the table. Because so many people, you said it before, they focus on UAT, right? So that user acceptance testing, that's the eye on the prize that they're looking at, not realizing all of the different pieces along the way where it's so critical. And I want to talk about that a little bit because Vince had mentioned the risk of, oh my gosh, we realize years later that we've been paying people incorrectly, right? Talk a little bit about what some of those other risks are if a customer or group, whoever you're working with, aren't going through the full motion of testing throughout the life cycle of a project. Where can that potentially go wrong?
Yeah, where's your value prop in addition to that?
Yeah. Well, one thing I think has changed is with SaaS applications now, the ownership really falls to the business, meaning that could be HR, that could be operations, that could be legal, it could be a lot of different drivers that would own workforce management in this day and age. Testing used to kind of go across the fence to, a QA team or IT, and really quickly those would get out of date. And so the business didn't have sort of a line of sight into what were those pay rules and the things that could get you into trouble. What were the policies? Is it correct? Is it accurate? And so, we add a lot of value kind of being able to take the administrative burden out during a project, but it's really that ongoing testing that adds a lot of value for a company to stay compliant and make sure they're paying people correctly. Because if you think about it, I mean, one of the fastest ways to get yourself in trouble as a corporation, tarnish your brand, bring a lawsuit, is paying people incorrectly.
Right.
And so, this really ensures that compliance. And what TestAssure can do is once someone is live with any system for timekeeping and payroll, is flag those issues before they ever actually go to payroll and pay people incorrectly. And so trying to do more proactive running of the business rather than reactive, which is historically how it's been done in this space.
Yep. So talk us through a little bit what a typical engagement would look like. So, sitting down with a customer and sort of obviously understanding their project, but what are the different ways that TestAssure kind of gets engaged from the beginning all the way through to the end when a customer's going live?
Yeah, so I mean, we really like to get involved sooner than later where, we can be along for the ride through requirements, through design. We can be hip to hip with the project team, understand the timelines, the plan, the strategy, because a lot of times, we get brought into the party a little bit late and then we have to course correct, or the customer has to course correct. So the sooner we're engaged, the better. But it's really, like you said, understanding the project plan, the timeline, the strategy, and then where does the customer need us to help, right? Like I talked about all the different types of testing we do and how we can support a customer. Not every customer has us do every own testing end to end. So we kind of can piecemeal that together and have sometimes kind of a hybrid approach where maybe the customer, the SI, owns some of the testing and we do another portion of the testing. So just putting our heads together and making sure, the customer understands what we're delivering and then, has all their bases covered. But yeah, I mean, in some cases we have a full-time QA PM and they'll put together the test plan, the strategy, and then we'll own the entire testing work stream and we'll manage that test plan, test strategy alongside the customer PM, the SI. And then there's other engagements where we come in and we've just got a piece of the pie and the customer has their own QA PM. They have a QA team. The SI has, a QA lead, a test lead on the project, and maybe they're managing the test plan, the test strategy. So it can look very different depending on the customer's actual plan.
So I want to back up a little bit too. You hit something there that I think is very critical for clients to hear and potential customers, and that is on getting involved early. And I think there's a key points and reasons for that I've saw myself, in person was one, this can expedite the plan. So if they're laying out a plan and not taking in consideration how you can actually make things move faster, that's a miss, right? Because I do think you can get to live faster, cleaner, quicker. The other thing I think that's missing too is you guys can extract the configuration, right?
Correct.
So if you're able to extract the configuration, I'm sitting here looking at it from a consultant perspective. that reduces discovery for me tremendously.
Absolutely.
So, I think, that's why I want to make sure they understand those two differentiators too. They help pull a project forward and get to it faster. So just to second that, get in there, get them involved sooner, better, quicker, earlier, whatever you want to call it, that you can to help expedite the project and create a better experience. And real quickly too, SIs or service integrators, for those who don't know, just want to make sure I call that out too, because they do work with a lot of different partners, including SIs and GSIs and others. And we'll get to a question about partners here in a minute too, but, or do we want to jump there? What else?
Actually, I think that's a good place to go. So, obviously we know you, we have a relationship with you because of your relationships with vendors and partners. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean,
Sure.
you've got such a great relationship and a presence out with those in the marketplace. Tell us how you've kind of built and fostered those relationships and why that's so critical to what TestAssure does. And really, I think just your business plan in general.
Sure. Yeah, when we first started, we were kind of, you have to start somewhere. And so we were working pretty exclusively with one vendor in the space. And what we found was customers really saw that the testing, Vince, to your point, could speed things along. When we can take some of the data out of the system that you're leaving, it really opens the door to where you can go. So whether you're upgrading to a new version of the same software vendor and continuing your relationship, or whether you want to change vendors, it gives you the ability to use those test cases to, what do I have? Am I paying people correctly today? Do I have the right policies, the right accrual policies, all those different things? And then is that going to feed payroll? Because for a lot of customers, they have a different payroll provider from their timekeeping provider.
Right.
And those two, need to be in lockstep, obviously. And so, where our real focus is in that timekeeping to payroll space, and lots of system integrators, lots of vendors, lots of customers don't understand the high transactional nature and the complexity of workforce management. That's been going on for the 25 years I've been in software and consulting, and I think it'll probably continue. But if you think about how many employees are clocking in, clocking out, going on break, all those things, there's just lots of room for errors. And so the ability to work across a lot of different vendors kind of made sense. And so we really became the default player for the automated testing. Well, then, a lot of customers want to use partners and system integrators and SIs to deliver the work or be a strategic partner. And so a few years ago, we decided we really want to work with all of those people as well and become the platform. We've got a team, we can do some of the heavy lifting, but we really want to support that consulting partners strategy in an account and do the testing and let them do the strategic work. And that's been really well received by our customers as well as our partners and the vendors.
So follow-up question on that too, because you talked about the breadth of what you could do. Correct if I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter size of customer either, right? Because pay is pay, right? So
Yep.
whether you're a 200 person company or 200,000, you still have to test everything.
Yep.
So
That great call out. I mean, part of what attracted me to working with TestAssure, not just that I'd seen so many of my former customers really love the work that they do and love the concept of the platform, was it works across all industries or verticals. So healthcare, manufacturing, retail, doesn't matter. Public sector, you name it, all geographies. So there's currency, there's certain payrolls and pay policies, and the size, to Vince's point, and we have customers with 1,000 associates who just don't have the bandwidth to test, and then we have customers with over 1 million employees, and so the scale and complexity is much greater, and therefore the engagement's much greater. But yeah, the value is there. Every company has to they have to schedule their people, they have to pay the people for when they work, and they have to make sure they're doing it correctly. Yeah.
So you were talking about pay. So we've been talking a lot about testing and TestAssure. As we're getting here to the end and wrapping up a little bit, want to ask really quickly about TestAssure and what that part of the business is, because we haven't talked about that at all. So any little notes or thoughts that you want to throw in about the TestAssure side of your business?
Sure. That was really customer driven, which is, Austin talked a lot about how we help in an implementation for a customer. And in every implementation, there's a testing component, regardless if the customer thinks they're going to take it on, whether the consulting partner is going to take it on, or whether they turn to TestAssure to do that. We've automated that with our platform. But what happens a lot of times is the customer's team goes away, the partner goes away, the budget kind of goes away, and testing doesn't stop. And especially in this space of time and pay, where again it's on a daily basis or a recurring basis, and laws are constantly changing. They change in some states and not others. They change for some class of employees and not others. And so there's kind of this ongoing need to test. And so customers came to us and said, we're already live, but can you continue being our testing platform? And can you actually do the work of running those tests and sort of that proactive management? And so PayAssure is the managed service offering, leveraging the TestAssure platform. Austin, anything you'd add?
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. Like Dylan said, I mean, the biggest thing we found is just that customers don't have the time, or the appetite really to be able to manage this ongoing, right? But they still want that confidence in their system. They want that confidence they're paying everyone correctly. So that's really the biggest thing is just, once our team is in there, we found, they really don't want us to go away. So that's what, has made us sticky. And why, I mean, and we even have customers that are already live. They didn't work with us in the implementation. They come and say, hey, we're struggling.
All right. Well, hey, we're wrapping up here on time, but I got one last question. We've talked about where you were, where you came from, where you are, where you headed. Anything exciting that you want us to tell us about, or expanding into other segments, or anything you just want to share with us before we close out here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're doing a lot of exciting things with AI in the platform. We're working with partners, much like you guys here at Improvisations, about how we can take all that data that we have, all the best practices that we've learned, and really enable our partners like you guys to go and take the customer to the next step in their journey around how that whole life cycle around the employee pay and the schedule is so rooted into the happiness of that associate and sort of how long they're going to stick around and what their loyalty is. And so the more we can enable you guys to do the strategic work and really help employers become the employer of choice is really our goal. We want to make testing,
Love it.
like not even a thought for a customer is really our goal.
Just make it work like it's supposed to. I love it. I love it. Well, Austin, Dylan, we appreciate your time today. We really do. We love working with you guys, and I know all the clients always do too. So again, thank you for time, and
absolutely, we love it. Love the podcast idea. I'll be tuning in for many more. I always learn whenever I watch. So
there you go. Awesome.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks,
you guys.
Y'all have a great day. Dr. Sarah Inman and Vince Jackson. Catch you on the next one.